The talented wide receiver Van Jefferson is going to miss 4 more games at the very least for the Rams. We'll get into it. Welcome back, folks. I'm Jake Ellenbogen, and today, unfortunately, we are going to be covering the Van Jefferson news. The Rams have now placed him on injured reserve, and that means he will no longer be able to play until at least week 8. He would be able to play week 7, but the Rams do have a bye, so the Rams would not likely expect to see him until week 8 at the very least. He could be longer, and this is going to bring up a cause for concern because it does go back and stems to 2019, where a lot of Rams fans, even 2018, a lot of Rams fans and analysts were concerned about Todd Gurley's knee injury, and it was somewhat blown off by not only Todd Gurley, but the front office and so forth. So now enter Van Jefferson here, coming off a Super Bowl win. Clearly, it was in pain. He played through it all throughout the second half of last year, and he ends up having to get a procedure done. And so he goes from being potentially available for the Bills game week 1 to not playing until potentially week 8. Now, Sean McVay claims that there has not been any sort of setback or anything like that. And I'm not going to call Sean McVay a liar, but this is concerning. I don't think it necessarily means it's a season jeopardy type of, injury or a career ending or anything like that. But I do think it's definitely something to monitor. Van Jefferson is an outstanding route runner. He's a great receiver over the top. And I think this is clearly somebody that could be 1,000 yards or more in this offense. He can be used as a guy that can field stretch. He can be used as a guy that can take the end arounds, the jet sweeps, and the jet motions. And so I think that this is a significant loss for the Rams. But at the same time, I do think it opens up huge opportunities. Just like our last video, we were talking about 3 of the top 4 cornerbacks being out for this game. Now Van Jefferson is guaranteed to be out. He was already out, but now he's guaranteed to be out until week 8. So that does open up the opportunity for Tutu Atwell, a second-round pick that really hasn't gotten a ton of opportunities. Then you look at Jacob Harris, the 4th-round pick in that same draft, who hasn't gotten a ton of opportunities. And then Ben Skowronek, the 7th-round pick, who continues to get opportunities and make the most of them. At least recently, I understand people have an issue with his postseason production. But this guy last week was brilliant. They used him as a fullback. They like him a lot, and I think he's going to be utilized even more moving forward. In addition to that, the Rams have also been using Brandon Powell, the kick/punt returner, has also gotten an opportunity with this offense, albeit it was a very low role, and it's not like anything changes right now because Van Jefferson hasn't played to this point, but it is interesting because now that Van Jefferson is guaranteed to be out until at least week 8, because they did place him on IR, you have to miss 4 games, and of course, like I said, the bye, it does open up a really interesting thing here where Ben Skowronek can almost kind of, I'm not going to say take over the role, but Ben Skowronek has a huge opportunity to take over as the number 3 receiver. And then when Van Jefferson comes back, maybe even make it a timeshare. I'm not saying that that's what they're going to do. I think they really just want to keep Ben Skowronek on the field because he offers so many things. And when Van Jefferson comes back, they'll be using him at fullback and so forth. But still, I think it's very interesting for Ben Skowronek and, of course, Van Jefferson. But I also think it's very interesting for Odell Beckham Jr. And actually, my question is, does Odell Beckham Jr. come back before Van Jefferson comes back? And now I know he is eligible to be taken off IR and play week 8, but maybe it's worse than that. Maybe the injury is worse. I'm not going to speculate, but just think about this. If the injury was worse, then there is a chance that Odell Beckham Jr. all of a sudden goes from a luxury to a need. And it's not to say that calling him a luxury is a knock on him, and it's not to say calling him a need is a knock on the Rams receiver group. Sometimes you deal with injuries, and this team is dealing with a lot of injuries to start the year. You've had injuries in camp. Matthew Stafford, albeit I'm not worried about his elbow, but that's something there. That held him back a little bit in camp. Like I said, not really a worry there. You had Cam Akers, Darrell Henderson going through it. You had Kyron Williams suffer a broken foot. Then he comes back, and then he suffers another injury. So on top of that, those two things going on. And then the receiver room, you have Van Jefferson. Odell Beckham Jr. isn't on the roster, but, he's recovering from the torn ACL, and he could very well be a Ram later on in the year. And so, you talk about those guys. You have Jacob Harris going through an injury. And then, of course, the tight end position, Tyler Higbee comes back from the injury from the Super Bowl. You have the offensive line, a bevy of injuries. You talk about Brian Allen being injured, Tremaine Ankrum. You lose Logan Bruss before the year. And then, of course, your left tackle and Joe Noteboom gets banged up in the first game. So they've been battling injuries pretty much the whole year on the offensive side of the ball. But now the defensive side, talk about the corners. 3 of the top 4 will be out this weekend. Jordan Fuller's not 100% yet. I think he looks good, and he definitely showed some promise, but he's not 100% yet. And then, of course, you look at the linebackers. They lose Traven Howard to, a freak thing away from the facility. So there's a lot going on, not to mention the suspensions with Bobby Brown, and in addition to that, Bryson Hopkins. So the Rams are going through a lot right now. Van Jefferson is not the headline of all of that. I think there are so many guys that are hurt. Troy Hill, Jacoby Durant, etc. I mean, the list goes on, but he's certainly one of the top headlines. And the Rams have really started to hum on offense, at least from last week. They got things going. First week was a little concerning, and if they did not bounce back, you would imagine that the Van Jefferson loss would have been even more significant. Now, seeing what they did against the Falcons, I'm going to look at it like this. Unfortunately, it's the only way you can look at it, or you could be just negative, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to look at it like this. Van Jefferson is going to be out till at least week 8. That gives Ben Skowronek more opportunities. He's going to have so much experience as a 7th-round receiver that wasn't really even expected to play on the offensive side of the ball by many people. He is going to have an invaluable amount of experience. He already has that in big-time games. And yes, he didn't step up, but you have to imagine now he's going to. Now that he's seen that, he's going to. So I'm excited for him and his development. And he just seems like one of those guys that's going to stick around for a long time. The Rams are really going to like him. He can do a lot of different things, and I feel like he could end up playing into another contract or even 2 contracts down the line. Not really Mike Thomas, but a guy that can contribute on offense, special teams, and of course as a fullback, a wide receiver, a tight end. You look at a guy like that, Swiss Army knife, makes a lot of sense, so I love that value. It also opens up the door for Tutu Atwell, who obviously would have liked to see more targets in week 1 and not just one that bounced off his hands. And in week 2, of course, would like to see a little bit more action and not just used as a little decoy running, jet motion. Now, week 3 presents a different opportunity. I'm not going to assume the Rams went into this game thinking that they'd have Van Jefferson before all of that came out. But if they did, now, if that was the game plan, they can kind of insert Tutu Atwell to be that field stretcher. I do think this does open up the opportunity for not only those two and Jacob Harris, who was activated last week off the practice squad. He was called up. I think he'll be this week. Actually, he was activated this week. So Jacob Harris is also in play here that can play wide receiver / tight end. So you talk about that opportunity for him. Brandon Powell, but another guy we got to bring up because there's going to be people that are freaking out in the comment section if I don't, is Lance Mccutchen. Yes, I understand there are people that don't think Lance Mccutchen should be playing this year because, he's raw, all of that, and, he made the team, and hearing Les Snead talk about how he's going to be more of a 53 guy and not a 48 guy. I get that. But there's also people that do want to see Mccutchen. And it's not that this wide receiver group is in dire need of him, but if Van Jefferson's out for a significant amount of time, that means that another injury would really put him right in the opportunity and right in the zone to get actual reps. So I would not be surprised. I'm not saying it'll happen, but I would not be surprised if they try to get Lance Mccutchen going on Sunday. If he is called up, or not called up, but rather if he is activated on Sunday, I think it poses a huge problem for the Arizona Cardinals because this is somebody that can stretch the field. He can take the top off the defense, and say what you will, and I really do like Skowronek, but they do miss Van Jefferson's ability to stretch the field, and they simply haven't used Tutu Atwell or have the trust in him yet to go over the top. So I think because of that, until they have that, you could look at Lance Mccutchen, who was doing it all throughout preseason, as somebody that could fill into that spot. You got to keep this defense honest, and I would not be surprised if the guy that does that is a guy that has not played at all this year. Another guy that hasn't played at all this year, of course, as I've mentioned in the previous video, is Darian Kendrick. So I wouldn't rule out the Rams giving these guys an opportunity. You have to keep in mind that they're going to keep a bunch of these guys on the roster. They're not putting Brian Allen on the IR. They're not putting Jacoby Durant. They're not putting David Long. Those are 3 out of the 5 guys that you have to deactivate for game day. So that means there's going to be, 2 healthy scratches? And I might even be wrong in that regard. So I think it leaves a lot open for a guy like Lance McCutchen to actually play on Sunday. I'm not saying he will, but I'm saying the door is definitely open there. But I'm curious what you guys think. Do you think this leads to Odell Beckham Jr. coming back sooner? Do you think this leads to Ben Skowronek potentially breaking out now that he feels really confident? And, I could totally see a Ben Skowronek breakout this week. I actually think he's going to hit 75 yards receiving. That's what I said on the podcast. But I'm really curious to see what you think. Do you think Brandon Powell? Do you think Tutu Atwell? Is this the Tutu Atwell breakout game like Tavon Austin had at Lucas Oil Stadium against the Colts? Had 3 touchdowns in that game. Is it something like that? It's going to be interesting. But I want to know what you guys think. What are your thoughts on this? Are you concerned with Van? Are you not concerned with Van? Because I'll tell you right now, in conclusion, I am concerned with the fact that this was pretty much downplayed to the point where he wasn't on IR. So he did actually have to stay on the roster. That did take up a roster spot for almost the entire 3 weeks before they placed him on IR. And now since they waited until week 3, he will not be on the roster until at least week 8. And that's assuming he would be making it back okay. So I am a little concerned with that. As far as the depth, I'm far from concerned with the depth. I think that Lance McCutchen should play on Sunday. I think they should get Atwell going. They should definitely put the ball in Ben Skowronek's hands as the 3rd receiver. I think they should utilize him more. He only had 2 catches last week, had 3 targets. He had a really nice route that he ran deep down the field that Stafford missed him on. I think he's going to be utilized more. And I also think it's time to start using Allen Robinson deep down the field as well. You got this guy, can win 50-50 balls being thrown up there. You got to take advantage of that. And I think they will this Sunday. I think they'll get creative, but I also think they'll be smart. And I think they'll use what the defense, they'll take what the defense gives them. But in addition to that, they'll force some plays. That's Stafford. That's the Rams. And I think one of those plays is going to be big to Allen Robinson down the field. So kind of rambling on here, but in conclusion, I am a little concerned about Van Jefferson, but I'm not concerned about who's behind him. So I think the Rams will be okay, but let me know in the comment section below what you think. That's going to do it for me. I'm Jake Ellenbogen, and I approve this message. Later, folks.